Today on Strength Cycle, we're going to talk about healing injuries using barbell training. Now I'm out here working on my bike today. I just returned from a mountain bike trip to Highland Mountain Bike Park up in Tilton, New Hampshire. I've been off my bike for about a year, and I went up there and got to have a pretty heavy session. And that's when something interesting happened. I noticed it, not that I hadn't seen it before, but I noticed it and it made me think real hard about it, and I wanted to make a post, make a video about this. No riding for a year, and I go up there, pretty heavy session up there, lots of tricks, backflips, 360s, all that sort of stuff. Quite a few crashes on a few things. And the thing I noticed, no low back pain, no knee pain. Now, like I said, I haven't been riding for a whole year, but what I have been doing for the last year, pretty hardcore, is getting stronger. And this is what made me think. All through my years, all the injuries I've ever had, the one thing that brought me back from all of them was getting stronger. It was the barbells, it was the training, the weight training that brought me back. Let's talk about shoulders. A lot of my friends, a lot of people I know and acquaintances who are not in action sports or any other sports, they quite often complain of shoulder problems and different things like that, long-term nagging injuries, and they can't do overhead pressing or something because their shoulder hurts. Now, what I have found, what has worked for me, every time I had a shoulder injury, what fixed it was a return to overhead pressing. Heavy overhead pressing and shoulder work. I tried to get back in the gym as soon as possible. Now, this is something that needs to be done with a little bit of judgment. If you're going to get back in the gym as soon as possible, you've got to realize that you can't go back to hitting normal weights if you've severely, had an injury. What you do need to do is start moving that muscle again, start getting blood to the muscle, start working it through the normal range of motion, start gradually adding more load, and then gradually start working towards, returning to getting a full range of motion with the normal barbell exercises. In this case, either dumbbell shoulder press or, like I like, standing overhead shoulder press. So that is what has always helped me. I would go in there, and if the range of motion was so limited by the injury that I couldn't start doing overhead press even lightly, what I would start doing is lateral raises. Something light, something small, just to start getting some blood moving. Lateral raises, and then gradually work up, and as the days go on, work towards heavier and heavier dumbbells, more and more of a full range of motion, and gradually works towards dumbbell shoulder presses, and then gradually work towards the standing shoulder press. And over the years, I've had lots of little, shoulder injuries that were extremely painful. One of them kept me, had me injured for like 2 whole months before it was back to 100%. But right now, I've got really strong shoulders. I can do a standing, a strict shoulder press with 205 pounds at a 194-pound body weight. That's pretty decent. And that's what I'm saying. I want you guys to start hitting the weights, as soon as you can after an injury, and start rehabbing it, start building it back. Because that muscle's it's not gonna return to its full, its prior strength by itself. You're not just gonna hurt that thing, stay off it for 6 weeks, and just expect suddenly the strength to come back after, no use and no blood flow to it for weeks on end. Your muscle's gonna atrophy. It's gonna start shrinking and degenerating. And that doesn't count any scar tissue that might build up or anything like that. So you need to get back in there and start building that thing as soon as you can and start healing it. Now, if you've had shoulder surgery, that's a different ball game. I haven't had that, so I can't speak to it. But who can speak to it is Mark Ripito. And I'll link to a cool video in the bottom in the description here of him talking about how he rehabbed his shoulder after shoulder surgery. And there's some really cool stuff in there you guys should take a look at. It's very similar to what I'm talking about here, but he goes through some ways of doing that, ways of starting small and working up that are extremely effective and extremely low impact, especially for a shoulder injury, especially in the low position of the typical shoulder press, and he shows you how to avoid that and how to start slowly working through the range of motion without re-injuring it again, without stressing it too hard, which is always very important. You got to listen to your body and not push it too hard. Take it slow. Another example, leg injuries. BMX full of lots of leg injuries. I one time ripped a tendon off the front of my ankle bone on a tail whip gone wrong. Ripped the tendon off the bone, pulling a chunk of the bone off with it. Within 5 minutes, that thing swelled up to like this big, and after a few days, the swelling and the bruising had gone up well past my knee, and it was a horrible looking mess. The orthopedic surgeon told me this sort of injury could take up to a year to heal. That is not acceptable. I had no intention of waiting a year to be back at 100%. He had me in like a moon boot cast thing for about 2 weeks, and I still went to the gym and did other things and still went to work. But as soon as that boot came off, I was back in the gym. And I didn't have enough range of motion in my ankle or in my knee because of all the swelling and the bruising and the damage to do squats or deadlifts. I just could not do them. I could barely even bend the thing. So what I did start doing was leg extensions. And this is a place, especially in an injury, this is a place where the isolation movements can have value. If you can't do the major movements for whatever reason because of the pain and the restriction of the range of motion, a good way to just get some blood flowing back into it and get some used to it again are the isolation movements. So leg extensions. Now I would keep doing those for a few days, and as the range of motion got better and better, slowly I would switch to the leg press. Again, and keep working at it as the range of motion got better and better, as the pain started to subside, and then I would move to squats and deadlifts. Starting very, very light, being careful not to push it too hard, but gradually increasing the weight, and then after about 8 weeks, I'm back at 90% again. I'm back to riding bikes just as hard as before, and my weights in the weight room are back to 90%. I didn't have a lot of muscle atrophy. I didn't have one leg suddenly massively larger than the other because of all the muscle mass that I had lost, and that was it. I mean, that was a pretty quick rehab for what the orthopedic surgeon told me was going to take up to a year to heal. Now I had this same injury happen to me last year at the age of 30. Exact same injury, exact same leg, exact same everything. I was back to 100% in 4 weeks, half the time. I knew exactly what I needed to do and how to do it. I was already much stronger than I was the first time I had this injury, and the healing process happened much faster. The key to a lot of injury prevention, in my mind, especially with sports, is being stronger and more muscular. A stronger muscle is more resilient to the injury. It's very strong in places of disadvantage. And a lot of people, when they hurt themselves, that's what happens. They put too much stress on the muscle or the joint in a position where it's doesn't have a lot of mechanical advantage. Getting stronger and stronger will help. It helps make you stronger in all those ranges of motion there, at the bottom, at the top. More resilient to injury, more muscle mass. There's more blood flowing to the area. It's going to heal faster. That is what has helped me my whole life with shoulder injuries, lower back injuries, leg injuries, all of that sort of thing. Now, like I said, if you've had a surgery, personally, I think if you can do it, the answer is the barbell training. But I do not have any experience with that, so that is you'll have to look elsewhere for that. But if next time I get hurt, if I ever need surgery, you can bet that as soon as I'm able, even if I have to use the pink dumbbells, I'll be back in the weight room. So don't let people keep you out of the weight room. Being strong and being muscular is the key to being resilient, resistant to injury, and then healing the injury afterwards. That's all for today's video. If you have any questions, comments, topics you want me to cover in the future, leave it in the comments section and I will get to it. I hope this has been helpful. I hope this encourages you to, take the training very seriously, even if you're not trying to be a strength athlete. I do think being strong and muscular is of value in every sport, particularly contact sports. particularly the action sports. A lot of contact between your body, your head, and the fucking ground. But until next time, stay tuned to Strength Cycle.